Howdy peeps, well, part 2 coming up.
Just a lot, you know. I think nearly every woman and non-binary person I personally know has feared for their safety while walking alone at some point, especially at night. Nearly every woman and non-binary person who's sent me a message about this stuff, with the exception of one, has said something like this has happened to them.
Alright, let me tell you from a guy's perspective, and I know you don't really care, because you don't. But from a guy's perspective, and you could even go as far as arguing, oh well, you know, reasons, right? Back in the day, when I was a lot younger, I didn't fit in, and the group of friends that I had didn't quite fit in with society, as it were, right? Because we listened to heavy metal, rock music, and all of these, so we all had like long hair, leather jackets, goths, metal, all of that, right? You get the kind of attire, apparel, kind of air quotes uniform, as it were, right? Yeah, we probably did look weird as fuck thinking about it, but that's irrelevant, right? It's what we did. That was the music that we listened to. That is what we wore. And as a result of that, whenever we went past other pubs, what we would nowadays called normie pubs, back then they were like towny or chav pubs, we'd get singled out all the time. Many of us were actually chased on several occasions. And that wasn't even to do with what gender we were. That was just on the basis that you listen to different types of music and you look different to the rest of us. We've had a few to drink and now you lot are going to get it. So, you know, for you to think that this is just a woman issue, it's like you're sorely mistaken. I mean, I think with the only exception that yeah, there wasn't any over intimate. How can I put it? There wasn't any of that. You know, it was about giving us a kicking because we were different, right? So it wasn't about anything else. So again, was it mostly men that would do this? Yeah, you could say that. Yeah. Well, they weren't men. They were actually young lads who clearly had not grown into the maturity levels as the rest of society. But again, you could argue, well, maybe they're a bit backwards. And it's like, well, maybe they just don't accept that other people do different things and wear different clothes and listen to different music. But it's a thing. But for you to think that this is just a woman's problem, it's like, you got to be crazy.
The positive that we can take away from this is that we're finally starting to have real conversations about this now.
But you're not having conversations. This is just it. You're not having conversations. All that ever seems to happen is women will put forward their side. This is how the MRA ended up walking away from that table, because you cannot compromise, right? But we'll get into that in a bit. Or they couldn't compromise, or there wasn't a compromise between the two, is what I mean. But still, it's like, you know, you only want to listen to one side of the story, and that is not how equality works. So you need to really look into what equality actually means. I think you'll find it means that what one is the same as the other and treated the same. And that is not what is going on. And, you know, despite the fact that you might get the that a few guys have pointed out that maybe it's hashtag not all men, and you know you're not talking to them lot, and I know you're the way you've gone about this, I think, is totally wrong. You don't even know how to negotiate. You know how to tell people what you want, but you don't know how to negotiate. And if you don't know how to negotiate, then you're either going to end up with a bad deal or no deal every time. Now, sure, you could argue that you've got XYZ amount of subscribers, you make XYZ in revenue because of your channel, whatever. But that doesn't change the reality, does it? That just means you're actually benefiting off of other people's suffering. Think of it like that.
Why women feel unsafe, what is causing this, and what men and other people can do to make women feel safer, to make people feel safer.
You know what, this just as an aside, men have dedicated most of their lives to try and make things easier for women in every sense of the word. In every sense of the word. And the only thing we ever seem to hear is there's so much further to go, there's so much more to do. And it's like, where does it end? It doesn't. It doesn't end. You lot just keep on going, pushing your damn narratives until what? Like with recent videos of you know, the whole messages on the London Underground about staring at people. I mean, is the all-out goal in all of this where you will only have 6-foot chads walking about that you are attracted to, because the ones that you aren't attracted to are just harassing you every time they look at you or walk past you or just happen to be in the presence of your personal space? Is that where we're going with this? Where are you going with this? Do you even know where you're going with this? I'd probably not, no.
To stop other people being hurt. So many people now are actually finally starting to listen and learn, and it's amazing. I've had so many great messages from you guys over the last few days, either incredibly brave people sharing their stories and telling me what they experienced, or some incredible men reaching out and saying, damn, I didn't think of it like this before, I'm going to change my behaviour in this way, or...
And with respect, you're going to get a percentage of those guys that might not have thought about the way they interact with women, and how it might be a bit offensive or intrusive. And you're going to get the other guys which are simping for you. You know, if I just tell her that, oh, well, I didn't know this about me and I've changed my ways. If I send her that, she would love me forever and ever and ever. Ha ha! No, it doesn't work like that, does it? You know that and I know that. But you know and I know that they're doing it for that. You know, it's no different to a male feminist. You know what? I despise a lot of them abusive shits. I'm just saying it for what they are. Let's not go down that road. Let's just carry on.
Hey, I didn't realise maybe this was intimidating. What can I do to change this? They're exactly the sort of responses that we want and that I applaud and that are fantastic and that are amazing.
Yeah, because it's pandering to a narrative that you're pushing. You see, as soon as guys start calling for higher standards from women, though, oh, all of a sudden then they're a misogynistic pig and they're a woman hater and all of this, that and the other. Now are you starting to get the picture of how things are seen?
And then there's a very loud, very vocal minority who are incredibly disappointing. This minority of the people who do post with the hashtag #NotAllMen and tell me that they're offended by me posting about women being scared to go out alone.
Now, you say that last little bit. Women being scared to go out alone. Now, women wanted their independence, right? And for the most part, that has been given to them, right? They've got their independence. Has it ever crossed anyone's mind? And I thought of this just the other night, actually. Has it ever crossed anyone's mind that maybe the reason the women weren't sort of like, it wasn't greatly advised that they go out at night alone, right, is because, lo and behold, there are bad people out there that do bad things to other people that usually can't defend themselves in that scenario. So in other words, by air quotes, restricting freedoms in order to live a good and prosperous life, assuming of course that there was nothing going on behind the scenes, behind closed doors and that sort of a thing. But has it ever crossed anyone's mind that maybe it was for that reason and it wasn't just some oppressive patriarchy system? Look, as a man, I know how dangerous men can be. I know how dangerous women can be. And generally speaking, I know that a man can overpower a woman in most instances. Their physical strength, yeah? And all of that. But do I think there is, you know, like... And again, it comes down to the modern society. It's like, well, women want all this independence and all of this. It's like, well, okay, well, we can let you do all these things, but it's like, look, you got to understand that you're just as much at risk. You know, like I said, even nowadays, I don't wear the full attire of what I used to. But even walking past pubs now, sometimes I get a little bit nervous. A lot of the time, I'm waiting for it. I'm like, come on, who's going to give me shit then? Come on. I'm waiting for it. Because I know it's a possibility of something that's going to happen. So what is happening when I'm saying to myself and I'm walking past this pub? Come on then, that's, you know, it's not a come on then, let's have it. It's like, when's it going to happen? What is that? Well, that's a feeling. That's an emotion. Now, a lot of the time it goes unjustified because a lot of the time these guys are just having a nice old drink outside, they're getting a bit rowdy because, I don't know, something happened at their workplace or whatever, right? But what you're saying in this video is that my feelings and the feelings of many, many thousands, millions of other men don't count. Is what you're saying.
Telling me that it's hurt their feelings that I would dare say anything about how some men need to change their behaviour. I'm like, I don't care if I've hurt your feelings.
Right, and I'll stop that there. Brilliant. You don't care if you've hurt their feelings. So why would you expect anyone to care about your feelings when that is not being reciprocated? Do you see how this has to be a two-way street? All the way. You know, either men and women can either work together or they can work alone. Right? Like on this particular kind of thing. And truth be told, when you're pushing narratives like this, a lot of the guys that are saying, well, it's not actually all men, they kind of are offended because you do tar us all with the same brush. And then it just becomes easier to push your narrative of men are crap, men are toxic, men are bad, blah, 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 and all of this. And, you know, they actually have a very good point. And then, you know, digressing back, it's like, okay then, so say your little plan works of silencing all these guys that are saying, well, actually, it's not all men, right? And then, like I say, all these, we'll assume that they're good men, right? There's no guarantee of that, but we're going to assume just for playing devil's advocate on this one. So, they're all the good men. The bad men don't give two fucks about how you feel. The bad men don't give two fucks, you know, whether you're unhappy walking around in Leeds or London at 3 o'clock in the morning, drunk and vulnerable. But the reality of it is, despite that, in the majority of situations, any woman, and I mean any woman, no matter what you look like, as long as you don't act cray-cray, as long as you're on a level about it, because as soon as a guy sees cray-cray, he stops listening and stops paying attention, right? Crazy chicks, this will not work for you because you're crazy in the first place, and approaching groups of men to help you is not the best idea. You'll be let down and disappointed, probably. But in most instances, if a woman is like that damsel in distress, I guarantee you right now, you're going to get an army of white knights in shining armour ready to come save the damsel in distress. That is, of course, assuming in the situation that there are guys about and maybe you are walking past a pub. Maybe this is just a bit of a convenient thing for me to use an example. You know, for the times that it is a woman walking home on her own at silly o'clock in the morning, when probably she shouldn't be. When probably her boyfriend should be picking her up, you know, or her friends, more importantly, her friends should be helping each other get back home. And if one of them has to go, I mean, it's even simple things, right? And, you know, and whereas maybe if you stay at a friend's house, so you walk back as a group to a friend's house or something like that, you know, there are other ways. But again, you know, this just shows how vulnerable humans are when it's late at night, on their own, and bad people be about. You know, and the stuff that goes on in the town that I could tell you about, the town that I live in, it happens, you know, and it's not stuff like that. It's, in my opinion, far worse. And you could argue for there's different things going on there. But things in this town happen in broad daylight. They don't care. No, and and I'm not talking about male on female stuff. I'm talking about fights amongst men. Whether they'd go as far as that, I don't know. I would certainly hope not. Morals, this is the other thing. With the lack of morals that our society has nowadays, you know, I wouldn't be surprised. Because, you know, we've seen that shift in morality. And men's morals are generally low anyway. Now, by that I mean their morality, the fact that they're constantly being put down and blamed for everything. But fuck it.
Rather your feelings are hurt than another woman physically gets hurt. And now I can't even believe I have to say this, but I think it should be made very, very clear. Of course, not all men hurt women. No one is saying that. And following on from this, not all men want to hurt women. Not all men have the intention of hurting women. Not all men want to scare women. Not all men will think they're scaring women.
It's like you knew I was going to find this video.
That's obvious. No one's saying that. No one is saying all men are rapists, all men are murderers, all men are violent, whatever. No one is saying that.
No, but when you tell us that you're scared to go out at night because of men, you know, we take note in that. We take note in that. Now, I get that my attire, my personality is probably quite intimidating to most people, you know, just by visual, but, you know, it comes down to that thing of, is what it is, I suppose. You know, if you don't invest the time in getting to know someone, that's fine with me, because I wouldn't waste my time with someone like that. But that is just more of a personal thing. Let's carry on.
Not a single reasonable person. And if they are, then fine, critique that. But for the most part, the people saying not all men in response to these kinds of conversations are completely taking everything out of context. They're twisting it for the sake of their own agenda. But, well...
But isn't that what you've just done? You know, it's like, you even brought up the case of Sarah Everard, and then dismissed any possible investigation as to why it happened. You know, what was the actual cause? What actually caused this guy to go and do that? I'm not justifying what he did. I'm curious as to whether there's more at play than what we actually know about. And look, admittedly, I haven't looked into the case since, so I have no idea. That's just a speculation based on what I've seen on other behaviours by men and women, knowing what I know about dating apps, and knowing what I know about people wanting to keep their affairs pretty low key. You know.
All men are violent. The fact is that most women have been hurt or harassed or violated in some way, and in nearly every single case the perpetrator has been a man. So how is it surprising that women, alone in public, fear most men they come across? It's not all men, but it could be any man. I've seen really great analogies online trying to explain this. Yeah,
and again, look at Amber Heard. It's not all women, but it could be any one of them. That thing of, oh, well, you know, here's a box of sweets, there's a couple of them that are poisoned, do you still want to play this game? You know, while you're playing Russian roulette, again, no pun intended with that one, you're playing Russian roulette with your life. From, you know, the guy's perspective.
Like, not all ticks carry Lyme disease, but we still try and avoid all ticks. Not all...
Yeah.
And so while they're not perfect analogies, as this guy likes to point out, they do get the point across. And I think maybe instead of sitting there and picking faults with analogies, you should realise what they're trying to tell you. And that is that we don't know who the dangerous men are. We can't tell by looking at you if you're dangerous or not.
No, but most would... It depends how... It comes down to that law of attraction. If you're attracted to the guy, then you're not going to think they're dangerous. You know, and again, when does these things that offend you that become law, whereas you're looking at someone and, you know, if they're attractive, then it's okay, but if you don't fancy them, then they're harassing you, right? Or they try the cold approach, as they call it in dating, where you just walk up to a woman and, you know, you find her attractive, because that is what is expected from men in the dating game. I'm just saying, be expected to walk up to a woman who you've never met before, have some sort of game, have some sort of cold approach about yourself, you know, keeping it all gangster and all that shit, right? And you have to hope that she is mildly attracted to you. Mildly. Because if she ain't, you could have yourself a harassment case. And if it gets reported to the cops, you could have a bit more than a harassment case going on. All of a sudden your life starts crumbling before your eyes and there's nothing you can do about it. Then you got a content creator like this that says, men are bad, men do this, look what they're harassing, it's harassing. Now that works wonders when it comes to you wanting a statistic of a demographic of someone that is like oppressing or being bad towards you. And again, it is not representative of all men, and we both know this. But here we are. Let's carry on with this one, he says.
We can only kind of guess based on your behaviour. And so if your behaviour is mimicking that of men who do want to hurt us, we are going to be scared.
And the other question I've got actually is who's brought these men up to sort of think and act like this? You know, this is one of the other sort of things, again, digressing back to the whole patriarchy, and I get it, look, some families,